Mixties presents the Popcast.
102.
Hey, my name is Brian, that is Shane, and this is the Popcast, and today we're talking about the new Inhumans / TV show. We saw it last night in IMAX. For me, at Downtown Disney. For Shane, somewhere some other IMAX theater, I'm sure he'll explain.
Up north.
We have some things to say about this. Not all bad, not all good. A lot of questions. Stick around, Shane.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually got to see it at the furthest north IMAX theater that it was being shown in Southern California. We had 12 people, including me, my wife, and my 8-year-old son, actually at the theater. So, of course, that didn't bode well walking into it, seeing it that way. It had a limited release, only here in Southern California. And so we need to talk a little bit about the marketing and kind of what happened and what people are saying about this Inhumans TV show, especially based on the success that Marvel has had previously. There's a couple of really popular TV shows out. That Marvel is, the people are. What are a couple that you like to watch?
Marvel. Oh, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Peggy Carter before it was unceremoniously canceled, and that's it.
Right.
There isn't a whole lot of Marvel shows. Oh wait, no, there's the Netflix shows, but I gotta be honest, I don't care. Right? Here's the deal. Like, I know everybody praises the Daredevil. Like, Daredevil is a masterpiece of television. And I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. I don't care. I mean, he doesn't have any powers. He's a blind guy. That's where it ends for me. And then here's the deal. I like the character, but not on Netflix. They don't have the budget to really do it right. So you'd think that they would have the budget. It's Netflix, but it's definitely a TV show where they center the majority of the time around character interaction, and there isn't a whole lot of fancy anything. And that's also Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist, which I thought was going to be like their return to like powers and whatnot, but they did the same formula that they did with Daredevil, where it was just about characters. And honestly, if the actor isn't extremely good, like the Daredevil actor is, it's not great. So Daredevil was okay because the actor was so good. The other ones were at best okay, at worst not something I care about, and I just don't care about. Like, the Defenders came out. You think I'd be sitting there binge watching it? Nope.
Okay. Well, so the point is that Marvel is all about their TV shows. They've got their movie series, which, I mean, they're going to keep going for a little bit. It's actually coming to an end. The big Marvel
Phase
franchises,
2, right?
It's coming towards. So they're basically trying to set up their TV future. They want to own TV, and so they've done this Inhumans, Stan Lee creation, an older series, very interesting backstory. They've decided to bring it to screen, but the problem is that they kind of did this half-assed launch.
Yeah,
basically.
Inhumans is sort of like Marvel's version of Game of Thrones.
After watching it, I don't agree.
I mean,
I know you mentioned that yesterday.
But
I don't feel that way at all.
Right. The comics. Yeah. Let me real quick.
Okay, the comics. I got you. Okay.
Obviously they came out before Game of Thrones, but
sure.
If you had to equate them to something, you'd be like, okay, Game of Thrones with powers, because it's a bunch of family drama, and who's in charge of the city or whatever, and it's a lot. Half of what happens with Inhumans in the comics is family issues and brother fighting brother and sister fighting sister, etc., etc. So it has a very Game of Thrones feel, especially considering relationships are a little.
Well, so you have a background with the comics. I have no background. All I've got is this TV show.
My background is I read a couple issues before watching this.
That you forced me to go watch this. So
okay, here's the deal. I knew Shane was. So I'm sitting in the theater last night. Okay, sorry. I'm sitting in this giant IMAX theater that cost $45 to get into.
Right.
And when it ends, I get up and I'm like confused and dazed at the way it just sort of ended. Like credits are rolling, and I'm gonna start walking down, and I'm thinking, oh my God, Shane is really gonna be unhappy with me because this was not a movie. And some guy yells, "It's not over yet. There's one more episode." I'm like, one more episode? What? And I'm like, so I had to go back. I'm like, what do you mean in one more episode? It's 2 episodes, man. I'm like, okay. Now I'm realizing this is a TV show. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch the second episode. I tell my wife, let's sit down. My wife's looking at me like, what have you done to me?
Yeah.
So I sat her down, and we sit there through all the credits, and then a trailer plays for the TV show that's launching in September.
September 29th, yeah.
Right. And I'm like...
On a Friday. Why would you do that to them? But okay.
Right. And I'm like, okay, where's the next episode? And the lights come on. No, there wasn't 2 episodes. It was 2 episodes that they rolled into one giant movie. And the reason that the huge super fan in the back thought there was 2 episodes was because the guy that was on the way out defending this shit, this stuff.
No, man, it's going to be good.
He was.
Watch the TV show.
He was confused as to how it ended the way it did. Like, it just goes, okay, it's over. Have a good night. I expected George Bush to get up there and be like, please clap. Please clap.
Oh, there were 12 people. We couldn't tell if anybody was clapping.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I knew you were not going to be happy with me because I expected this to be either a movie that led into a TV series. I did not expect them to take 2 episodes and make it the
Might
first.
Have been cool.
But that makes sense, right? Like, I know they're trying to take over TV because DC has taken over TV. All the DC shows do well.
But it's not fair to, great, Southern California had this opportunity, which, apparently about maybe 1,000 people actually went and saw this.
Opportunity.
The problem is they showed the first 2 episodes. So what's going to happen September 29th? We went and saw these movies. Now they're going to start with the first show again, and we're going to have the first 2 weeks, we're going to have to watch these first 2 shows again if you decide you want to watch the TV series. When I sat down and I'm sitting there, and by the way, I got to tell you, if you guys are ever at Edwards Camarillo Theater in California, they redid their IMAX seating. The best part of the whole experience, the seats are perfect. I would love to have these in my house. I was so comfortable.
You're reminding me about my experience at Downtown Disney. So
it didn't matter how. Oh, you want to hear about that? But it didn't matter what I was going to watch for the next next hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes.
But I wasn't moving, and my wife and my son, we all kind of looked at each other and were like, "This is good." Wow. So I want to hear about Downtown Disney though.
So number one, I wish that I had experienced that because that sounds amazing. Both of my tickets were $22 a piece. How much did you pay for your tickets?
Mine weren't that much. They were like, I want to say 16.
Well, you're just adding to
I'm sorry. There was a surcharge. There was a surcharge.
Okay, so
$6.
I live in Southern California near Disneyland. I live in like the most populated area of Orange County, right? It's my place. I love where I live. I love the city of Orange, and I love Orange County. What I don't love about Orange County is the tourist destinations. The Block, Disneyland, Downtown Disney, the Orange Circle, all these little places, because they're always packed full of people that just don't know any better, right?
Stadium.
They just don't understand that in no way is it reasonable to charge $18 to park your car.
Nowhere. By the way, it's more expensive in San Francisco than it is in downtown Disney.
But nowhere. But to go watch a movie, Same. It's not reasonable to drive into a theater parking lot and get charged $18 to park your car, right?
I've always felt that way. Even going to Disneyland, why do you got to pay to park? You're already paying to go into the park.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's not like you're going to pay to then not go into the park. I mean, you're not going to park there to go. I mean, so the point of paying for parking additionally is ridiculous.
It's
it should be in the price.
It's a clear cash grab. Well, then when we park the car and we get out, and you know how I feel about lines, right? Like I love standing in lines. It's like my favorite thing to do is stand in lines. But I mean, yeah, enough about lines. Basically, we get up to the security check, and yes, it's a security check that is checking our bags, metal detectors, blood checks, full-on pat-downs. I'm sorry, not blood checks. You know what I mean? It was ridiculous to get into a movie theater, but it's not. It's part of Disney. So we get in there. Well, I asked the guy that's been touching the inside of my thighs for about 3 minutes now. And I'm
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, man, where's the IMAX theater? Because I know there's a theater, but I don't know where the IMAX theater is. And he's like, I don't think we have IMAX here. Have a good day. I just spent 20 minutes in a line, and you're telling me there might not be an IMAX in this park?
That's fantastic.
What? And so I decide that he's probably just one of those guys that just doesn't care about anything and doesn't want to deal with me. So I go forth to find IMAX. And I find the AMC with the giant IMAX symbol. If you work here, there's no way you don't see that anyways. So...
yeah, he was just saying if he could get you to leave.
Right. We go in there. We're gonna get some popcorn and some soda, but it's between shifts because movies have already started and no one's at the concessions, so we can't buy anything. So we just walk in. Our ticket's not even scanned, bro. Okay. We just walk into the theater and we just go and see the movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There was just nobody there.
They've got it together.
Apparently. So we go in and we sit down, and it's starting, and it's basically starting where the moon shot where it shows the moon.
Okay.
And that's probably a great place to get into the actual review of the movie, I think, because we both shared our experiences on the theaters and whatnot.
Yeah, I really wanted to go through and just say that Inhumans in general is getting really crappy reviews before we do ours.
Yeah.
It's really bad. For example, you've got The Guardian saying Marvel's Inhumans destined to be TV's disaster of the year, right? And then you've got Wired saying Inhumans review, Marvel's first major misstep. You've got all kinds of different CNN talking about how bad it is. There's just the weakest link in all the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, it's just on and on and on and on. So with that said, I didn't look at any of this before I went and saw the movie.
Yeah.
So
here's the deal, though. It's not
part of the show.
Yeah, it's not. It's a TV show. This is not a cinematic. It's not part of the MCU. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but it's more like how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is part of the MCU. The MCU is never going to reference the TV shows. They don't care about the TV shows. So they're in their own
I'm
little
okay
world.
with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I find it interesting that the reviews that they got, and then based on the experience that I have, which I think will surprise some people.
Yeah. Well, if you go see the movie this weekend, you're going to definitely realize that your money could have been best spent elsewhere.
Well, yeah. It initially says written for TV, parts 1 and 2 by I didn't catch the name, but it said written for TV.
Right.
So that's the first kind of off throw. I'm not sure why that was necessary for them to say that. I guess that they're saying, well, sorry for our mistake in advance. It was written for TV.
Yeah. Well, they probably screened it and they're like, well, it's not really good for IMAX. And choosing IMAX to be your limited release, I'm not sure if that was a good idea. Here's the deal. It's not. I don't think Inhumans is either good or bad. I think it's a TV show, and once you realize that, you have to grade it a little differently.
Yes, you have to look at this differently than you would look at a movie.
Yeah, if it was a movie, I would tell you right now, wow, what a waste of time, what a misstep. Marvel's made a mistake. But if it's a TV show, I gotta be honest, I watched the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I was like, this is sort of garbage. By season 2, I was hooked. By season 3, it was, they were talking about Emmys. So Marvel is always slow out the gate for the TV shows because they have to set up all these characters. But once they get going, it's usually pretty good. All their shows start off all their TV shows start off rough and then end up being amazing TV because they have the right casting, the right writing, but the setup is like it's like pregnancy labor. It's so hard to get through it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with what you're saying there, but they may have. There's also some probably major missteps in the creation of this series that we can talk about as we go through it. That's different than probably anything else that Marvel's done up to this point, including some casting issues and some story problems. But there's also a couple of nice things as well. So the biggest surprise came for me at the very end of the show. And I'm going to save that for when we get there.
Okay, so the show starts off with the moon. It zooms into the moon, and all of a sudden you see there's a city on the moon that's cloaked.
No. Well, sort of. You got that backwards. It starts out in a city.
In a city and zooms out.
And then it zooms out and shows the moon. So you're like, how is there a city there? Right? Because it's cloaked.
Right. And that's when you realize that whoever these people are, boy, do they have some amazing technology. And there's a line where the guy with the tattooed face, I always forget his name, because I didn't care that much.
Well, his name's Karnak.
Karnak. When he's opening up the moon lander, right, the moon rover, he's like, humans still using lithium batteries. Tisk, tisk. So clearly, these guys have some impressive technology.
Right.
But unfortunately, they haven't figured out text messaging because their king is mute, can't talk, and therefore the phone is a waste of a device for him. They have these cool phones that wrap around your wrist, and they're like watches, but then they can pull them out and make them into like touchscreen smartphones, but they can't text message.
Well, they talk to each other through them, so I don't know. Do they need to text?
I'm just saying, they have a mute king that can't open his mouth. Text message would be a nice thing to have at that point, right?
Well, but then the Queen wouldn't have a job. So it's almost like on Galaxy Quest where Sigourney Weaver is playing the computer and basically she repeats everything the computer says. That's like her whole job, right?
Yeah.
So this is the Queen's only job is basically to translate for the king who uses sign language.
Yeah. So, but I understand that. That's her purpose. But when I saw that phone, I'm like, and she was like, show me you're okay. And he puts it to his heart. I would have been like, I'm cool. Thanks. I'm just saying.
He literally had no way. He's so confused. He's like, how do I, in his mind, he's thinking, how am I going to show her that I'm okay? I'm like, is he going to tap on it? And I'm here, whatever. You're right. Yeah, it's kind of silly.
It's crazy. I'm like, guys, we might be primitive humans that still use lithium batteries. But we've figured out how to use text messaging, guys, okay? And WhatsApp and just text communication. Morse code. I mean, apparently we're not as primitive as you guys think we are.
Nice comeback, bro.
The weird humans are bad message at the beginning of the show. Let's just call it a show from now on. Is weird to me. Like, I get it, like they're afraid of humans and like they have these visions of humans in war. But you're showing the show to a bunch of humans, right? So there's gotta be a point where you go, not all humans are bad. Right?
Well, yeah. Well, so in order to be fair to everybody, because 98% of the people who watch this will not have had an opportunity to actually see it. So just to really, really set up the show, Brian had it good. Basically these people live on the moon. They are correctly what I said yesterday. They are a version of what you would call X-Men almost. They are people who end up with powers.
Except Marvel also did X-Men.
Right, but what I'm saying is they're like the X-Men.
Right.
So these Inhumans are basically mutations of humanity. They start out as humans. They mutate. Basically, the movie starts out, there's this girl in Hawaii. She's running through the forest, and these guys with guns are following her, shooting at her. This guy shows up with a blue head and basically says, come with me, I'll protect you. We're going to take you away from here where there's other, and they kind of explain this inhuman thing. The girl, by the way, has something with her eyes where she can see who's coming or can hear, people coming. But basically it fails. She goes the wrong way, and he gets shot, the guy who came to save her, and he falls into the water. So then we go back up to the moon, and basically we find out and learn that eventually that this king had sent this guy down here because he wants to try to bring Inhumans that are on Earth up to the moon. But the problem is his brother, who has no powers, is not happy with this, wants to take over the Earth, and basically overthrows the king.
Played by Ramsey Bolton.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I gotta say that casting is perfect. You know, on Game of Thrones, he's a sadistic villain that you just despise.
Right, and they did actually a good job in this movie. He is the villain. He's definitely doing things wrong. He's probably the best, the most, I wouldn't say most popular, but most well-recognized actor on the entire cast.
And there's a problem with that. While it's a really great cast for a villain, because I only know he's a villain because of who he is. But if you look at it from an outside perspective, not knowing the actor, maybe from what he's doing on the show, the writing, it doesn't really point out who's wrong here.
Right. That's what I was going to say. They're doing a really good job so far in this first 2 episodes of kind of making you think, well, he's got a point. I mean, they got people digging trenches underneath the moon.
People are not happy.
That doesn't seem cool.
Right.
Yeah. So he's kind of, but his motivation, they're kind of giving you an inside line where he's using that to take power as opposed to truly believing that.
Right.
He's actually really angry that he's not an Inhuman, that he's just didn't get any powers.
Right.
That's what he's mad about. So,
so please continue. I had to break in there because the Ramsey.
No,
Bolton,
that's what the show's about.
Oh, that's it. The Ramsey Bolton character was when I first heard the casting, I'm like, wow, perfect casting to play the bad guy. And I was like, or maybe not so perfect because he's going to be the bad guy because that guy is always a bad guy, especially after that performance on Game of Thrones where he was just like the sadistic, crazy person.
Yeah, he's much better, by the way, on Game of Thrones than he was in these first 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a writing issue for sure.
Okay. I think there's a lot of acting problems here too.
Yeah. So
I do. I greatly feel that way.
Let's talk about the Medusa character.
Yeah.
Her power is her hair, right? So
her hair.
The characters go through when they reach puberty. They go through something called pterogenesis, where there's some kind of chemical, a rock or something that's put into a phone booth looking thing, and it washes over the character, and they breathe it in, and it interacts with their DNA some way, and brings out their hidden talents, mutates them, transforms them into humans.
So they're basically forcing mutation. So as opposed to X-Men who accidentally or they grow up with it, they actually force the mutation with the Inhumans.
So X-Men are humans that were born with an X gene. There's a gene, a recessive gene that not all humans have, that you're born with. When you're born with this recessive gene, you develop certain abilities. Inhumans are actually perfect to their title. They're not humans. They're half humans, half some other race out there. And that race originally created the humans, and this is what I know from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., experimented on humans and mixed their DNA to create soldiers for their war against another spacefaring race. Eventually, they forgot about Earth as a failed concept. They left them behind and moved on. These Inhumans, the few that were left, they bred and they continued to live throughout the world. And then eventually they felt threatened by humans. I'm not sure how they could be threatened, but they did. And they moved to the moon. And that's where they're at. They're not 100% humans. So the pterogenesis, it only takes place with that chemical, that rock, because it's activating the programming that these aliens put in their DNA 100,000 years ago or something.
Right. The problem is, though, is that not everyone gets to become an Inhuman. With the people who go through the pterogenesis process, not all of them actually end up with some sort of power.
Right.
And those people are forced to go and basically mine underneath the city.
And that's the reason is because they're breeding out the DNA that the aliens put in their system thousands of years ago. because
Makes sense.
because they bred with humans, and so it's that human DNA is constantly messing with their DNA. So it's a cool scientific concept.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the bad guy was one of those guys that were born with that didn't have nothing happened when he went through Terrigenesis. And he should have gone in the mines, but his brother's the king, so he didn't. And there's a point of contention, but it also means that when he talks to the people, he's one of them, so he can definitely interact with them a little more fluid than the mute king can.
And he's got a silver tongue, so he definitely knows how to manipulate people.
Yeah, he's the little finger of this show.
Yeah, good. That's a good way of putting it. If you're a Game of Thrones reference, he's basically like Littlefinger. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck in this Game of Thrones thing because I'm not trying to keep referencing Game of Thrones.
Super popular right now.
That and when the comics that I read in preparation to watch this movie, movie was it really read like Game of Thrones comics, like Game of Thrones with X-Men. That's what it felt like to me.
Which is kind of a cool idea, but that's definitely not what the movie is. Not what the TV show is going for. There's only one royal family contention at this time. I think they alluded to the Medusa, the Queen's family, not liking the King's family, which I thought was interesting.
Right.
But there's really only one family we're talking about here, and they're basically being overthrown, and all of them are on Earth. So the ones that were in power are now separated down on Earth trying to find each other.
Right.
So they have this giant dog. This is the best part. I just got to say.
This is the best part.
There's the giant bulldog. Giant bulldog. Let me tell you, it's the size of like it's the size of a Volkswagen.
Like a Kia Accent.
It's giant, right? And basically the princess is, I guess he's her pet, and that dog can basically transport via this weird way that it falls into pieces, pulls you into pieces, and can take anybody anywhere, apparently either on the moon or on Earth at this point, and basically is just dropping them off and then going back to the moon. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I've never seen or heard of anything like that before.
I thought that was cool, but then I saw something cooler. When they interacted with the Inhuman that is an actual wall.
Okay. So there's a lot of bad things about this. A lot of bad things about this, and we're going to talk about it. But you're right. There are some really good things, and namely the interesting characters, like the different what they are, and also the powers, the special powers of some of the people are powers I've never seen on superheroes before. And that was cool.
I gotta say, I like the fact that there is a downside to these powers too. Not just oh, I went to Terrigenesis and now I'm a god. No. You're stuck in a wall. You have this ability to transport people, but it's painful to you. You can't move.
Right.
No one would want it. Even if you had the ability to go through that and have that power, you wouldn't want it because the constrictions, the negative portion of it is way outweighs the positive. That girl that was born with the wings, that was really cool. But then her brother, has these strokes every time someone touches him.
Yeah, because he can see the future.
Right. So that's the downside. So some of these powers are obvious upsides, but a lot of them are downsides. Even the king has this power where if he just whispers, he can destroy anything.
His voice kills.
His voice kills things, which means he can't talk ever.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it's like super hokey that he doesn't talk and the queen's doing this thing. But then you learn eventually that he basically killed his parents.
Right.
So there's kind of this heaviness over him. Even the queen, her powers are that she can manipulate her hair to do anything, to grab people, which is pretty cool.
Which looked really cool.
But if you shave the hair off, which is what happens to her, well, she has no power.
Right.
So I love the same as you that their weakness and their power is really wrapped up into the same thing.
Right. So yeah, I really like that about it. We're going through things we liked, right? I gotta say, sure. I liked how they dealt with the cloven hoof guy. Obviously, you don't have the budget to just have CGI in the bottom half of this guy the whole time, so they had these like boots, right? That these giant boots that he put on to go down to look more like human. But they're big enough to where you're like, okay, I see how a hoof can fit in there or whatever. That was a really good idea on how you can save money and still get the point across. So I like
he's in charge. He's in charge of the king's security. That actor, by the way, and he's basically has the hooves of a goat. Basically, he's like maybe half goat, I'm guessing, or half.
Is it goat?
He has
Or
goat
like
legs. Maybe an ox. They're very big, powerful. He's a powerful guy.
Centaur,
It's very similar to a centaur, but not a centaur. He has 2 legs.
He has 2 legs, right. So I like that part of it. I liked, keep forgetting the guy with the tattoos on his face. I shouldn't.
Oh, okay. So listen, his character's name is Karnak. His name is Ken Luang, and he's actually probably one of the most prolific actors on here. He's been in a lot of different things. So, and if you notice that, I mean, he was in things like Lost, The Sopranos.
Right.
He was in Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Had a very small part. Admiral Statura, but he is. You can tell even from his acting that he's kind of the old soul on the set.
Yeah, and I like him, and I liked his powers when they first shot him. And this is a little semi-spoiler here, but I think they show it in the trailer. So.
It's all spoilers here, I think, pretty much.
When they first shot him, I was like, well, he went out quick. Guess they didn't have the budget for that actor, right? And then when he backs out and they show his power, how the way he's able to see a little bit in the future and figure out the best way to handle a situation is really, really cool. Because that allows him to make a perfect move, that perfect dance to deal with these 5 guards.
So just real quick, because people didn't see this and they're kind of watching this, so it's really hard to understand based on like what you're saying. So basically, he's shot. He gets shot during a fight. You see him splat face down into a pool, and you're like you said, he's dead. But then all of a sudden, the camera pans up and everything's frozen. And he's standing there, like, evaluating himself. He's like, okay, there I am there.
And he's like, that didn't work.
And there's these symbols up, where it looks like east, west, north, and south. And he's like, that didn't work. Okay, let's try it again. And then basically everything rewinds. He goes back into his body, and he changes what he does so that he doesn't get shot. And then they move on. And I'm like, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was
awesome. Of all
awesome.
the powers I saw, that was, like, next level stuff.
And that line where he goes, you shouldn't have given me a choice.
Yeah, that was good.
So I don't know where his powers are obviously based on like making choices or something, right?
Have you ever seen Nicolas Cage's the movie Next?
It's love basically that movie. Yeah,
he can see 30 seconds into the future.
It's that power, so he can
60 seconds.
So he can run a million different scenarios to figure out which one is the best for him before actually doing it.
Right, and when he gets to Earth, he hits his head and somehow messes up that ability.
And here's my problem with that. You're climbing down a cliff. Why are you not using that ability at that point?
Well, maybe he can only use it when he's in a life or death situation.
Because when he fell, I was expecting the camera to pan back up and be like, well, that didn't work out. Let me go this way.
I mean, maybe he can't do it all the time. Maybe only when his body is. Maybe when he's going to die or something.
Maybe a or something. The thing about this show is the characters have actual downsides to their abilities and restrictions. And they're not just like I love Superman, the Flash and all that, but like, let's face it, they're basically gods, right?
Basically.
There isn't much of a downside to Superman. Oh, he's allergic to a green rock. That's super rare. Okay.
Yeah, you have to have another equally powerful being in order to be able to bring him down.
Right.
With these characters, it can simply be a matter of circumstance.
Right. Like, yeah, she got a haircut. Now she's less powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really important to know that I feel like there's a lot of potential in this show to do great things with great writing, because it's not just a bunch of superpowered beings slugging it out. There are downsides and upsides, and there are actual restrictions, not just morally. Like, sometimes, like, the only restriction Superman has is a moral restriction. Should I kill this guy? No, but Black Bolt, he can't speak to anybody. Because
No, he's the king. Yeah.
and he's the king, and anybody he speaks to will just disintegrate. You
Right.
know, that's a huge downside. That's not a morality issue. That's just like that's a logistics issue. Okay.
Well, and he had the opportunity to use his power
And he
to
didn't.
kill his brother, and he hesitated, although I think he was going to do it. You know, but he hesitated. So, you know, there are some positive things about this, but I feel like there's also an equal amount of negative things about this, and specifically with the acting quality.
Okay, now we've talked about the positive. Let's talk about the negative.
Right. I was very what's the best way? Most of the actors in this TV show have had small pieces in other things. You're going to watch this and go, I think I've seen that person before. You're going to do that a lot with these guys because you have in very small roles in lots of different series. And so you have to ask yourself this question. Is there a reason why they're in those positions? They haven't already broken out. Some of these actors are not young people.
Right.
And they've been given huge roles. I would argue that this television series might not even make it out of pilot ordinarily if it wasn't being driven by Marvel, because the acting by people like Serinda Swan, who played Medusa, who's been on TV for years,
whom I
was
loved in other stuff.
She you can go back as far as Smallville. She was in episodes of Smallville.
She was. I remember, yeah.
And let me tell you, her acting was so overly dramatic, over the top, and poor acting.
Yeah.
That I was like, I may not be able to watch it simply because she's playing such a pivotal role in this show.
So, bro, my wife audibly laughed when she was getting her head shaved.
What did she say? She said, she goes, I'll never forgive you if you do this. I mean, the guy's going to take her life. More than you're never going to forgive him. You need to be stronger than that.
I know. My wife laughed. She's like, so dramatic. And my wife watches telenovelas. What?
Oh, okay. So she is a great judge of what dramatic is.
I looked at her. I was like, I wanted to like try to smooth it over and be like, babe, think about. No, I'm not going to defend this.
It's not. It was so overly dramatic.
Not defendable.
It was not defendable, and unfortunately, I mean, I got to tell you, Black Bolt, played by Anson Mount, who's once one of those guys. You look at him, you're like, I've seen that guy before. Mm-hmm. You look at him, you're like, he actually, has a really great look about him. He looks like a king, but his acting, his miming, because that's all he can do, is terrible. It almost makes him look confused and bewildered, and he doesn't come across as strong, only in a couple of moments. He's in Hawaii, basically in a police
that part was great. I like that scene.
The scene where he was sitting there, that was the only good part, but everything leading up to that, I mean, there's just a lot of he should be more powerful than that. There should be more. I know they're trying to drive the story into a different place,
yeah,
but they're compromising the character to do that. And it's going to hurt them, I believe.
Here's the problem with adapting this comic to TV. The character needs to communicate with the audience.
Right. They're going to have to get over that killing people thing with the voice.
They're going to have somehow, or they're going to have to get some kind of filter, or a text message ability, or I don't know.
I mean, think about it. Cyclops from X-Men. He's got glasses. Right, let's give this guy a respirator or something. I don't know what we can do.
I don't know.
He's got to have something.
He's got to communicate with us because it works in the comic books because you're reading it, right? You're reading his thought bubbles and whatnot, but you can't read his thoughts, right? You can't. There's no thought bubbles here, and this actor, well, I like him actually. I actually don't mind him at all. I feel like it's too much for him to try to convey what's happening and what the character is thinking without being able to use words. It's just too hard for him. When he gets fitted for a suit and he's like, "Thank you," and he walks away, that was a very king move. Like he was given a new suit and he's walking out, and you're like, "Okay, I saw that." But the lead up to that, I feel like I could have mimed better. I could have been like,
he's like, "Look at her."
right? Like if I had to communicate with somebody that I needed different clothes, I would have been like, you know, he was just like, I don't see. I can't.
I don't know. It's terrible that you even have to do that. I mean, he should have been able to do it with a glance, or somebody looked at him and said, kind of get to this, and he was like, there could have been a better way of cutting that up other than to make him look like a cheap clown, which is kind of what they did.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're gonna do with that. I really hope that this show gets legs. Though, like remember, Agents of Shield, which we're gonna be covering in January, was really bad that first season. I remember you asking me about it, and I'm like, probably not worth our time.
And I didn't watch it as a result of that.
Right.
So thank you.
And then 2 seasons later, I'm like, yeah, it's Emmy level television that requires, a podcast and marketing. It's a really good TV show, but it took an entire 18 episodes to get you past that birthing state where they corrected some of those earlier mistakes, made adjustments, and then made good TV. And I think that I hope that we're seeing that here, because these first couple episodes were hard to watch. There were parts of it that was really good, but overall, I can't say if it's good or bad because it's not a movie, and it's the first couple episodes. It's a pilot, basically, episode of a TV series, and I don't think I've ever seen an amazing pilot for a TV series. Mostly pilots are usually that setup where it's hard to really judge, and you can go like, well, I feel confident that this will do better. Pilots are usually not the best things unless they're comedies where there's no setup required, but dramas and that kind of thing require a big setup.
Well, and I think you're 100% right in what you said. That's a really good observation. But I had a couple more issues real quick. They sent an assassin down to find everybody, a female assassin.
Oh.
And basically he said, listen, the guy who's taking over everybody, listen, pick your team out, take whatever you need, do whatever you have to do, and go down there and basically either bring him back or kill him. And she's like, look, all we need is me. I'll go down. I got you. We don't need anybody else.
And at that moment, you're thinking she has crazy superpowers.
Okay, right. Okay, so check this out. So inside the bus, and I'm sorry for you guys that didn't get to see this, but basically the queen, Medusa, has taken a bus. She found herself. She's trying to find the king, which I don't understand why the king is so unable to help himself that she has to find him so that he will be okay. That whole idea of that is really weird. But basically, she's on the bus. She finds out that they're tracking her signal because she's talking to the princess up on the moon. So she destroys the watch. The assassin comes down, goes onto the bus, kills the guy driving the bus, finds the watch. Now, this is hours before she had broken the watch. The assassin gets there, leaves the bus, and then Medusa walks out from behind the bus at her. And I'm thinking, why did you destroy the watch and not run away because they're coming to get you? You waited for him to show up.
Right.
You have no power because your head's shaved. Yet she was able to basically kick the crap out of this girl and kill her.
There's more questions, Shane. If you destroyed the watch while the bus was traveling, how did they get to the watch?
That's a fantastic question.
Okay, and then on top of it, what you asked, if you destroyed the watch, why would you stick around? If it's a trap, why destroy the watch in the first place?
Yeah, leave it running. Just let it sit there and then wait in the shadows and then come get her. But the problem is she's not powerful anymore.
Not even powered.
She lost her powers. So the writers, that should have been evident. It's obvious that they're trying to set up this heroine to be the lead of the show. You can see that they're trying to force that, but it's not going to be natural. It's not going to work. So they're going to have to take a different route. You have Ken Loang, who played the Karnak character.
They're going to have to focus more on him.
Yeah, they're going to have to go back to him more. Even Emwe Equaker, Equaker is his name. He plays Gorgon, the guy with the hooves. He was over the top, and he's made this relationship with some Hawaiian surfers. It's just very, very hokey. And I walked away from it at the end going,
What did Brian get me into?
Brian is going to have to convince me to watch this and do a show on this because it's just the acting. The characters
I
could
can
be
convince
so
you right
good.
here.
The acting was so bad. But let me tell you, you can convince me, but you don't need to convince me because you know who convinced me? My wife and my son convinced me.
They liked it?
Let me tell you what. We walked away from the show. My wife and my son loved it.
What? My wife hated it.
She loved it and can't wait for September 29th when it's going to come out so they can watch it.
Bro.
And my wife doesn't watch this stuff.
She looked at me and said, how much did this cost? And then when I told her, she was like, great. The parking's going to be $18. I'm like, well, we can get it validated. She goes, no, we can't. You bought the tickets on Fandango.
Oh.
She was actually mad at me. Like, there's a little bit of like, why did we waste our time, our effort, and people's favors to watch our children to watch this?
Well, congratulations, because my wife and my son loved it, which tells me one thing. This is why Marvel made such a big mistake not marketing this, because there is probably a very large audience of people out there who probably can fall in love with the show, but you know what? They're not going to know anything about it. And sadly, the show's not going to they're not going to know anything about it, and guess what's going to happen? It's going to premiere September 29th, and it's going to nosedive, and it'll be gone in 6 weeks. And I'll tell you why. I'm tell you why. I mean, they could push it longer. They're Marvel. They could push a whole season if they want to.
They did that,
and no problem. They can do it. But they've got 25 horrible reviews online right now. On IMDb right now, they got a 2.5-star rating. I mean, I'm telling you,
guys,
they're going to get sunk.
But Shane, so did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, but it's different because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was backed by the big Avengers franchise. But
it was still given horrible reviews.
But Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was also massively marketed before it came out.
Right, that's
Everybody
true.
knew it was coming.
That's true, but
nobody knows about this. I've talked to 10
about
people.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tie-in. Remember, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out
to this movie?
Yeah,
the show?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out the gate with 1- and 2-star reviews, horrible reviews.
Right.
And it took them a year to get on their feet. They were given another year. That second season, they did really well. They killed it. The third season, they had Emmy-nominated episodes. Okay. So they've now reached a plateau where people have admitted it's now a good show.
Okay, let me ask you.
They're coming back in January, in the middle of Inhumans, and that show left off with Phil Coulson in space somewhere.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
On the same TV television.
So they're probably going to link them up, but let me ask you this: was the acting as bad at the beginning of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Seriously,
I gotta say. Let me say, I actually did that comparison, and I was like, you know what? Lang is reminding me a whole lot of Coulson, where he's very outspoken. He has a little smile on his face. You can tell there's ability there, but the people around him are overacting. And I thought, wait a minute, where did I see that last? Oh, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Coulson character was clearly a seasoned actor. And his co-star at the time, the older Asian woman, was very overacted. Everything she did was overacted. I actually hated her as a character because everything she did was over the top, overacted, overly dramatic, overly angry, overly sad, overly everything, right? And I didn't like it. And I saw some of those same things coming out of the Cloven guy and the Medusa character.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, now in season 3, I still had my bad feelings about the Agent May character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But when she's on screen now, there's a familiarity where she's comfortable in the role. She's more natural, and I actually look forward to episodes that feature her more often. When I hated those first season episodes that had her in them, I didn't care about her story at all.
They should feel very fortunate. Everybody who's working on this Inhuman show right now should feel very fortunate that they're backed by Marvel, backed by Disney, because I'll tell you right now, it's got a 45% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Of everybody who's seen the show, it's got a 45%. And as everybody knows about Rotten Tomatoes, you're very rarely that low on an audience score, even in a bad movie.
That is really bad.
That's scary. So, but I'm with you. I am a positive. I believe that good things can happen, and most importantly, I was tickled that my wife and my son, I was getting ready to apologize to them for making them come see this. And of course, paying just to be able to sit in the seats was worth it to me. So I would have paid to watch anything
My seats
in
weren't
those
that
wonderful brand new seats. So remember Edwards and Camarillo. Next time you're up here, I'll take you.
Yeah.
So it was it could happen.
Yeah.
It could be okay.
I'm trying to be positive about it because this is Marvel's last chance at a TV empire. Let's be real. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on their way out. They're on 5 seasons now. Most shows on ABC don't go that as long as they have gone. I don't see them lasting another 2 seasons because the paychecks are going to keep getting bigger and the graphics budget is going to keep getting bigger, and eventually TV always out budgets itself.
Absolutely.
When
That's
TV gets to a certain point, it can't afford itself anymore because it always has to go bigger. It has to keep the characters been around for 6 years. They're like, listen, my agent doesn't need more money.
Yeah, it devours itself.
It devours itself. It's like a snake eating its own tail. It starts off looking cool and it ends up just being a mess. And that's what all TV shows do. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on its way out. There's no way it can continue at this pace, even though I like the show. Something has got to take its place. It's got to introduce something. Either it's a spin-off, right, with characters you already know, where they can shrink it down and then build it back up again, or it's this Inhumans thing. They've canceled all the spin-offs. They canceled Peggy Carter. They canceled the Bobby spin-off. It's got to be Inhumans. This is their last chance at a TV empire. Disney is not going to let this go.
Okay, well, they can afford not to let it go. I would tell anybody watching this, if what we've talked about is a convoluted mess and it's hard to understand what we've discussed, show up September 29th if you're not doing anything on a Friday. I personally think that Friday night slots for TV shows is a death slot.
It's a death sentence.
That's how Star Trek got killed back in the 60s. And it's how you kill a show these days. So I'm shocked that it's actually coming out on Fridays. Now, luckily, I'm home. I don't do anything. So we'll be watching it on Friday nights just to see what happens. And you should give it a try. I mean, taste it for yourself.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I also don't understand the Friday slot. I guess they don't want to compete with Legends of Tomorrow, The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and all those others.
There's a lot of stuff out there.
There's like 10 superhero shows out there, and they're all doing fairly well. They probably don't want to compete. Friday is the only day where there isn't a single show happening. That's probably why they're on Fridays, but Friday also is a day it's not happening because that's not a day people normally watch TV.
Well, the other thing is that they're lucky in the age of the DVR and recording shows and episodes on Netflix and everything else, because now, I mean, the Friday time slot isn't maybe not such a killer because you can DVR it and you can record it and they know people are watching it later. I mean, it's like 60 to 70% of the market is watching it later.
Right. Well, that's it for us. We'll be back on Monday. Hopefully, we'll have a special guest. We don't want to say any more.
Don't say nothing yet. We're working on it.
It's hard. It's bubbling up in me. I just want to spit
but
it
will be an AGT, America's Got Talent focused story. We are going to talk about the wild card that's
and the Duncan
that's coming
save.
on Tuesday. And you got your Duncan save coming.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys come
Monday.
back.
And have a great weekend, everybody. Please enjoy this amazing holiday weekend. And we'll see you on Monday.
See you Monday.